Today, I'm going to tell you about 3 specific secrets you should never give away. 3 things that once you share them, you can't take back. 3 boundaries that will decide whether people see you as strong and untouchable or exposed and easy to manipulate. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves to know your inner world. And when you finally learn how to guard these parts of yourself, you will walk into every room with more confidence, more power, and more peace than you've ever felt before. So listen closely. What I'm about to share with you can change the way you carry yourself for the rest of your life. Let me take you deeper into the idea of boundaries, because this is where everything begins. Think about it. The way people treat you, the way you feel about yourself, even the direction of your life. All of it is shaped by the boundaries you set, or the lack of them. Boundaries are not walls, and they are not about shutting people out. They are not about being cold, rude, or detached. Boundaries are about creating a framework for how the world interacts with you, how much access people get, and what parts of yourself remain sacred. Without boundaries, you become a person who is constantly drained. You give, you explain, you justify, you allow, and little by little, you lose pieces of yourself. You walk away from conversations feeling exhausted because you've overshared or allowed someone to probe too deeply into areas they had no right to touch. You leave relationships confused, asking yourself why you feel taken advantage of, when in reality, you handed over your time, your energy, and your secrets without ever setting a line in the sand. Now think about the people you admire most. They could be leaders, mentors, creators, entrepreneurs, or maybe someone in your own family. What's one thing they all have in common? They carry themselves with a kind of authority that makes you feel like you can't just walk into their life and demand pieces of them. They don't broadcast everything they think or feel. They reveal themselves on their own terms and only as much as they choose to. That's the power of boundaries. They command respect without asking for it. People often misunderstand boundaries. They think boundaries push others away. They think if I don't share this, people won't trust me. If I don't give this piece of myself, people will think I'm distant or unfriendly. But the reality is the opposite. Healthy boundaries make you magnetic. They make people lean in, curious, wondering what it is about you that feels different. Because here's the truth. When you give everything away, your plans, your pain, your vulnerabilities, you remove the mystery. You remove the respect. People stop valuing what flows so freely because you've shown them you don't even protect it yourself. Boundaries are also about self-respect. When you decide what you will and will not share, you are silently telling yourself, I matter enough to protect this part of me. You are saying, my story, my life, my energy, these are valuable, and I don't give them to just anyone. And when you carry yourself with that mindset, people feel it. They might not consciously say, wow, this person has strong boundaries, but they will sense it. They'll realize they cannot push you around. They'll understand instinctively that they can't demand explanations, can't poke into your private life, can't manipulate you with your own words. The lack of boundaries is often rooted in fear. The fear of being disliked, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of rejection. You tell yourself, if I just share more, if I just open up, maybe they'll like me more. Maybe they'll accept me. But what ends up happening is the opposite. People who are handed everything too quickly rarely value it. They start to see you as someone who doesn't know their own worth. And the moment people sense you don't value your own privacy, they stop valuing it too. Boundaries don't make you less approachable. They make you more respected. They make your relationships cleaner, clearer, and healthier. When you decide what's off limits, you stop resenting others for overstepping because you've already established where the line is. When you learn to say, that's not something I want to talk about right now, or I'm not ready to share that part of my life, you are being rude. You are protecting your peace. And let me tell you something, your peace is worth more than anyone's approval. Now, some people will resist when you start setting boundaries, especially if they've been benefiting from your lack of them. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you secretive, distant, maybe even arrogant. But what they're really saying is, I can't access you in the way I used to. I can't drain you, control you, or use your openness to my advantage anymore. And when you hear that kind of pushback, take it as a compliment. It means your boundaries are working. Think of boundaries like the security system of your house. You wouldn't leave your front door wide open and invite strangers to walk in and take whatever they want. That would be reckless. You wouldn't let someone off the street rummage through your drawers, peek into your bedroom, or examine your private letters. But how often do we do the exact same thing with our words and emotions? We leave the doors unlocked. We give strangers access. We hand out keys to people who haven't earned them. And then we wonder why we feel violated, disrespected, or exposed. Smart people know better. They install strong locks not to keep everyone out, but to control who gets in. They decide who has earned the right to know their plans, their pain, their private life. They don't explain themselves endlessly. They don't defend every choice. They simply live by the rule that not everything needs to be shared, and certainly not with everyone. Here's the beautiful thing about boundaries. Once you master them, you don't just protect yourself. You elevate yourself. You move differently. You speak differently. You walk into a room and people feel your energy without you saying a word. Because you're not pouring yourself out to be liked. You're carrying yourself with quiet confidence. And that confidence draws the right people in while keeping the wrong ones at a distance. So if you've ever wondered why some people always seem to command attention, respect, and trust, the answer is simple. They have boundaries. They know their worth. They understand that not every part of themselves is for public consumption. And because they protect their secrets, their energy, their peace, they become the kind of people others want to follow, to trust, to admire. That is the power of boundaries. They are not cages. They are not limitations. They are the foundation of strength, confidence, and self-respect. And once you decide to set them, you'll never go back to living without them. Let's talk about one of the most tempting things we all do. We announce our next move before it even happens. You land on a new idea, a fresh goal, a plan you're excited about, and the first instinct is to tell someone. Maybe you tell a friend, maybe you post it online, maybe you share it with colleagues. You do it because you want validation. You want that little burst of approval, that hit of encouragement that makes you feel like you're already halfway there. But here's the truth. Announcing your next move before you've built it is like handing someone the blueprints to a house you haven't even laid the foundation for. All it takes is one person's doubt, one careless comment, one dismissive laugh, and suddenly your energy shifts. You start questioning yourself, you second guess the plan, and the excitement you felt just hours ago turns into hesitation. Smart people know this. They know that plans thrive in silence. They understand that energy is fragile in the early stages of creation. It's like planting a seed. If you dig it up too soon to show everyone what's growing, you kill it before it has a chance to take root. Your dreams, your goals, your next big move, they need protection in the beginning, not exposure. They need time to strengthen underground, out of sight, so that when they finally break the surface, no storm can rip them out. When you hold your plans close, you eliminate unnecessary voices. You stay locked in with your own belief, your own discipline, your own strategy. You don't have to waste energy explaining yourself to people who don't see what you see. You don't have to defend your ideas against small minds. You don't have to dilute your dream to make it palatable for someone who lacks the courage to dream themselves. Think of the most impactful people in history. They didn't broadcast every step they were taking. They didn't run around telling everyone their next move. They moved quietly, worked relentlessly, and shocked the world when the results spoke for themselves. That's the mindset of a builder, a strategist, a leader. They don't confuse talking about the work with actually doing the work. And here's something you have to understand. Sharing your next move not only exposes you to criticism, it also tricks your brain. When you talk about your plans, your brain releases the same feel-good chemicals it would if you'd already accomplished them. You get the rush of, I'm doing something without actually doing it. That's dangerous because it creates the illusion of progress. You feel satisfied just by saying it out loud. So the urgency to act weakens. Silence keeps you hungry. Silence keeps you disciplined. Silence keeps you moving. There's another angle to this too, protection from sabotage. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. Some people actively wait for opportunities to slow you down. Maybe they compete with you, maybe they resent you, maybe they just don't want you to get ahead. If you announce your next move too soon, you give them a chance to interfere. They might spread doubt, block opportunities, or find ways to throw obstacles in your path. But when you move in silence, by the time they find out what you're doing, it's already too late. You're too far ahead. Think about chess. The smartest players don't telegraph their strategy. They don't sit across from their opponent and announce, I'm going to move my queen here, then my rook there. No, they play with patience, calculation, and unpredictability. They let their opponent guess, and by the time the move happens, it's decisive. That's how you need to treat your life. Every plan you announce prematurely is like showing your opponent your hand in the middle of the game. This doesn't mean you never share anything with anyone. It means you become selective. You build a circle so tight, so trusted that when you do share, it's only with people who can truly support you or add value. But the rest of the world, they get to see the results, not the rehearsal. They get to witness the outcome, not the brainstorming. They get to applaud your success, not pick apart your blueprint. And let's be honest, there's a thrill in that. There's power in unveiling something no one saw coming. Imagine the impact of saying nothing for months. And then one day launching your business, finishing your book, getting that promotion, making that leap. People will be stunned. They'll say, when did you do all this? How did I not know? That's the beauty of working in silence. Your results speak louder than any announcement ever could. Your plans deserve protection. Your future deserves privacy. You don't owe the world a play-by-play of your journey. You owe yourself the discipline to stay quiet until the work is done. Because when you finally reveal what you've been building, it won't just be an announcement, it will be undeniable proof. And that is how smart people move. Quietly, intentionally, powerfully. Not with chatter, not with empty promises, but with results that no one can argue with. There are certain parts of your life that should never be placed on display, no matter how tempting it feels to share them. One of the most sacred is your private life, your relationships, your personal struggles, your vulnerabilities. These are not for public consumption. They are not meant to be casual conversation topics with coworkers, acquaintances, or strangers online. They are yours to guard, yours to protect, and yours to choose carefully when and where to share. Think about it. Your private life is the most intimate reflection of who you are. It includes the people you love, the people who have hurt you, the scars you've carried, and the challenges you've fought through. These things shape you, but they also expose you. The moment you allow the wrong people to have access to that information, you hand them the power to judge you, to manipulate you, or to use those details in ways that don't serve you. Not everyone who listens to your story has good intentions. Some are waiting quietly for opportunities to exploit the very things you've revealed. Let's say you're going through a struggle in your relationship. Maybe it's conflict, maybe it's heartbreak, maybe it's something deeply personal. The second you start sharing every detail with people who don't have your best interests at heart, you invite opinions, gossip, and judgment. Smart people understand this. And that's why they keep their personal relationships and vulnerabilities under lock and key. They know that the more you protect, the more control you have. They realize that a relationship built between two people should not be built on the opinions of 10 others. They understand that struggles are better worked through in silence, with the right confidence, not thrown into the arena for public commentary. And what about vulnerabilities, the weaknesses, insecurities, and emotional wounds that you carry? These can be the sharpest tools in the wrong hands. Imagine telling someone about a past mistake that still haunts you, or an insecurity you've battled for years. In the moment, maybe it feels like release. Maybe you feel connected because you've opened up. But what happens when conflict arises? What happens when that person decides to turn against you? More often than not, they will use your vulnerability as ammunition. They'll throw it in your face, remind you of your scars, or spread it to others. What was once your private truth becomes a weapon used to cut you down. Protecting your private life doesn't mean living in secrecy or isolation. It doesn't mean shutting everyone out. It means being discerning. It means recognizing that not everyone has earned the right to your deepest truths. You don't hand someone the keys to your home on the first day you meet them. So why hand them the keys to your heart, your struggles, or your history? Trust is earned over time. Intimacy is built slowly. The people who truly deserve access to your private life will show it through consistency, loyalty, and respect. Until then, you owe it to yourself to hold back. There's also peace in privacy. When you stop oversharing, you start feeling lighter. You stop worrying about what others think of your choices because they don't know enough to form an opinion. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said too much. You reclaim your emotional energy because you're no longer constantly exposing your inner world to outside judgment. Privacy creates space for healing, for growing, and for strengthening your relationships without interference. Notice how the strongest relationships often belong to people who don't flaunt them. They don't plaster every detail of their love or friendship across the world. They don't run to outsiders every time there's a disagreement. They protect their bond by keeping it between them, and that's why it lasts. Because it's nurtured in a safe place, not put on display for everyone to dissect. There's a phrase that says, the less they know, the less they can interfere. That is the essence of protecting your private life. When people don't know the details, they can't judge, they can't sabotage, and they can't manipulate. All they can do is guess. And guesswork is powerless compared to truth. So ask yourself this, are you handing out your secrets too freely? Are you allowing casual conversations, social media posts, or temporary connections to expose the parts of you that deserve protection? If the answer is yes, it's time to shift. It's time to draw the line. Start practicing the art of silence when it comes to your private life. Learn to smile and say, that's personal, or I'd rather not get into that. The right people will respect your boundary. The wrong ones will push. And when they do, you'll know they never deserved access in the first place. Your private life is your fortress. Guard it. Protect the people you love. Protect the struggles you've overcome. And protect the vulnerabilities that make you human. Share them with wisdom, with intention, and only with those who've proven they can be trusted. And that kind of protection isn't about keeping people out. It's about keeping yourself whole. One of the hardest truths to accept is that the world is not always kind with the information you give it. The parts of yourself you're most insecure about, the weaknesses you wrestle with in silence. If you hand them out freely, not everyone will respond with compassion. Some will listen only to remember. Some will file it away to use later. Some will weaponize your honesty when it suits them. That is why your weaknesses and insecurities are among the most dangerous things you can share carelessly. We all have them. No one walks through life without doubts, scars, or flaws. Maybe you feel insecure about your appearance. Maybe you doubt your intelligence, your talent, or your ability to succeed. Maybe there's a past mistake that follows you like a shadow, and even though you've grown from it, you still cringe when you think about it. These things are real, but they don't need to be broadcast. They don't need to become material for others to hold against you. Because once you say it out loud in the wrong space, it's no longer just your private battle. It becomes part of how others define you. Think about a time when you admitted a weakness to someone you thought you could trust, and later it was thrown back at you. Maybe it came up in an argument. Maybe they joked about it in front of others. Maybe they repeated it when you weren't around. That sting you felt, that was the price of overexposure. That was the moment you realized not everyone can be trusted with your softest places. And once it's out there, you can't take it back. Smart people don't deny their weaknesses. They don't pretend insecurities don't exist. But they also don't hand them out like souvenirs. Instead, they protect them while working on them quietly. They build themselves up in private. They seek solutions, therapy, mentorship, or discipline, not pity, because pity doesn't heal you. Sympathy doesn't strengthen you. What makes you stronger is facing those weaknesses on your own terms, not putting them in the hands of others. There's also a psychological effect that comes with oversharing insecurities. When you tell people your flaws, they can't help but see you through that lens. You might say, I'm really bad at public speaking, and even if you do well later, they'll still frame you as the person who struggles with speaking. You might say, I always get anxious in big groups, and suddenly every action you take is judged against that label. You've unintentionally programmed people to limit you, to see you in a diminished light, because you announced it before they could form their own opinion. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about choosing when and how to share. Vulnerability can be powerful in the right place, with a coach, a mentor, or a loved one who has earned your trust. But vulnerability in the wrong place is like bleeding in front of sharks. You think you're being open, but what you're really doing is attracting predators. And predators come in many forms: coworkers who compete with you, friends who secretly envy you, or even strangers online who take pleasure in tearing others down. Protecting your weaknesses doesn't mean hiding forever. It means being strategic. Work on your insecurities in private and let your progress speak for you. If you know you're afraid of failure, don't tell the world. Just quietly build resilience. If you know you lack confidence, don't broadcast it. Practice confidence until it becomes natural. If you've made mistakes in the past, don't hand people the script. Live differently so that your actions rewrite your story. Imagine two people at work. One constantly announces their insecurities. I'm not good at this. I'm nervous about that. I don't think I can handle this project. What do their colleagues think? They start to believe it. They start to see that person as less capable, less reliable. Now picture someone else who has the same doubts, but they never voice them out loud. They do the work. They prepare behind the scenes. They show up ready, even if they feel the same fear. No one knows it. The impression they leave is strength. And over time, their private practice turns into public confidence. That's the difference. It's also important to understand that your weaknesses are temporary. They are not permanent flaws carved into your identity. They are simply areas that need attention, growth, and effort. But if you keep handing them out, they become permanent in the eyes of others. People will stop seeing your potential because you've told them too many times about your limitations. Silence gives you room to change. Privacy gives you freedom to evolve without being stuck under old labels. Think of your weaknesses like cracks in a wall. If you show everyone where the cracks are, sooner or later someone will test them. But if you keep repairing them quietly, strengthening the foundation, one day those cracks won't even exist. And by then, people will see only the strength, not the flaw. Here's the ultimate truth. Your weaknesses are not for display. They are for development. Your insecurities are not for everyone's ears. They are for your own reflection. Share them only with those who can help you grow, not with those who will keep you small. Because the moment you stop giving the world your insecurities, you reclaim control over your image, your energy, and your growth. You stop living as someone defined by doubt, and you start living as someone defined by resilience. That is what separates people who are constantly exploited from people who are quietly unshakable. So hold your weaknesses close. Guard your insecurities like treasure, not because they define you, but because you are in the process of outgrowing them. Let the world see your strength, your confidence, and your progress. But keep the battles behind the scenes where they belong. That is how you rise without leaving yourself exposed. There is a quiet kind of power that comes when you choose discretion over disclosure. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. We live in a world where people are encouraged to share everything, what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're feeling moment by moment. Social media rewards oversharing. Conversations often revolve around spilling the tea or telling it all. So when you decide to step back and keep certain parts of yourself private, people may not understand it. But over time, you begin to see the reward of discretion. And once you experience it, you'll never go back. The first reward is peace. When you stop giving everyone access to your inner world, you stop inviting their noise into it. You no longer have to manage the weight of other people's opinions about your choices. You no longer find yourself second-guessing every move because someone questioned it. You simply move quietly and confidently, without explanation. That stillness, that mental clarity is priceless. You wake up with more energy because you are no longer carrying the burden of unnecessary judgment. You fall asleep lighter because you didn't expose pieces of yourself that weren't ready to be shared. Another reward is respect. People respect what they cannot easily access. When you keep certain things private, you create a natural boundary that elevates how others view you. You stop being seen as an open book anyone can flip through. Instead, you become someone of depth, someone who chooses carefully who gets access and how much. This isn't about arrogance, it's about value. Diamonds are not left lying in the street for anyone to pick up. They're kept secure, protected, revealed only in the right setting. Your life, your secrets, your inner world are no different. When people sense that you don't hand out your essence to just anyone, they begin to approach you with more care, more curiosity, more respect. There's also freedom in discretion. The less people know, the freer you are to change, to evolve, to shift direction without explanation. When you broadcast every plan, every struggle, every thought, you lock yourself into an image. People expect you to stay consistent with what you've said, even if you've outgrown it. But when you hold things back, you give yourself the freedom to pivot without apology. You don't owe anyone an update because they were never entitled to the details in the first place. Discretion allows you to reinvent yourself without carrying the weight of other people's expectations. And then there is security. Discretion keeps you safe from manipulation. The less ammunition you give others, the less power they have over you. If people don't know your goals, they can't sabotage them. If they don't know your struggles, they can't exploit them. If they don't know your weaknesses, they can't target them. Silence is not emptiness, it is armor. It protects you in a world where not everyone has pure intentions. What's interesting is that discretion doesn't just protect you from the negative. It enhances the positive. Your wins feel bigger when they're not watered down by premature sharing. Your relationships feel stronger when they're not constantly analyzed by outsiders. Your growth feels more authentic when it's not performed for an audience. Privacy allows things to flourish naturally without interference, without pressure, without distraction. There's also a kind of mystery that comes with discretion, and mystery is powerful. When people can't figure you out completely, they stay intrigued. They wonder what you're working on, what you're thinking, what you're capable of. Now let's be clear. Discretion is not about isolation. It's not about hiding everything, shutting everyone out, or pretending you don't need people. It's about intentional sharing. It's about choosing the right time, the right place, and the right people. It's about asking yourself, does this need to be said? Does this serve me? Does this strengthen me or expose me? If the answer is no, then silence becomes your strategy. When you master discretion, you also attract the right kind of people. Those who respect your privacy will stay. Those who only wanted access to gossip or weakness will leave. This natural filter is one of the greatest rewards of all. You stop wasting time with people who drain you, and you start building with those who uplift you. Your circle becomes smaller, but stronger. And that's how real growth happens, not in wide open spaces where everyone has access, but in protected spaces where trust is mutual. Perhaps the greatest reward of discretion is dignity. There is a certain power in knowing that your life is not a stage for everyone to pick apart. You carry yourself differently when you know you are not constantly under the microscope of others' judgment. You don't feel the need to prove, to explain, to defend. You simply live, grounded in your own truth, unshaken by outside noise. That dignity is what makes people look at you and say, there's something about them. They can't always name it, but they feel it. That something is the strength of a person who values discretion. So while the world is busy shouting, oversharing, and exposing themselves for attention, you can move differently, quietly, strategically, intentionally. You can guard your peace, your relationships, your growth, and let the results speak for you. And when they do, the impact will be louder, clearer, and more lasting than any words you could have spoken along the way. That is the reward of discretion, peace, respect, influence, freedom, security, mystery, dignity. It is not weakness. It is wisdom. And once you learn to embrace it, you realize that not everything is meant to be seen. Not everything is meant to be said, and not everything is meant to be shared. Some things are stronger when they remain yours alone. At the end of the day, life is not about how much you give away. It's about how much you choose to protect. Your boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are gates that decide who is worthy of entry. Your next move is not a headline for the world to debate. It's a mission you execute until the results speak louder than words. Your private life is not a stage for strangers. It is the sanctuary where love, trust, and healing grow strongest when shielded. And your weaknesses, they are not weapons to hand out freely. They are challenges to conquer in silence, transforming them into strengths no one can touch. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your story, your plans, or your vulnerabilities. When you learn to guard these parts of yourself, you will discover a freedom you've never known before. A freedom from judgment, from sabotage, from manipulation. A freedom that allows you to move with confidence, to live with dignity, and to command respect without ever demanding it. So the next time you're tempted to overshare, stop and remember this. Silence is not emptiness. It is power. Privacy is not weakness. It is wisdom. And discretion is not secrecy. It is strategy. Love your life with boundaries. Move with intention. Protect what matters. Because when you stop giving away your power, you finally step into it. And that is where the strongest, most unshakable version of you begins.